Hello and welcome. Thank you to
Howdy.
all for tuning in to Alley Talk episode 2. Uh, I'm your host, Matt Watson, joined alongside Tommy, Alec. How we doing tonight, boys?
Wonderful.
Great. I just got off the phone with Hector Neris's agent. Sounds like
Oh, yeah.
he's coming to Philly. Yeah.
Breaking news. Hector
Yeah,
Neris
right.
to the Phillies. So last week we kind of debuted Alley Talk. We did a little bit of a breakdown. And of course, for those loyal listeners, obviously you'll recognize myself and Alec, the 11,000 and counting duo. So we're doing a little bit of a little podcast fusion tonight between 11K and counting and Alley Talk. So, yeah, we got a couple things to talk about tonight. We actually got some news. Tommy and I were talking last week. Like, we hope there's some news before next week. So we got a little bit of news, which is nice. So, yeah, but how you guys been? We ready for some Alley Talk?
I think we better be because we're here. It's going.
It's true.
So let's do it like Ashburn and get to the alley talk.
Oh, look at that. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, when are we getting t-shirts?
Yeah.
Where's
we
the
get-
merch? Where's the merch?
Somebody drops a like right now, I will start a merch store. But so I figured the first thing we could talk about tonight is the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I believe it was it was Tuesday night, right? Um, we heard the announcement for the 2024 Hall of Fame class in Major League Baseball. Um, and no Phillies made it this year, but we did have a few people enter, which was nice to see. Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer. Who's the third? Who am I missing?
Todd Helton.
Todd
Todd
Helton.
Helton. Yes.
Come on.
My bad.
Rockies.
As well as Jim Leland, who got in through the Writers Committee. So 4 inductees. Tom, I'll start with you here. What was just your overall thoughts on the Hall of Fame results and the guys who got in, and maybe some of the guys who didn't?
Yeah, so these three are undeniable. I think that just off the top has to be acknowledged. We're getting, at least me, as I inch towards 30, I'm starting to see some of these guys getting in the Hall of Fame that I actually remember watching, like growing up in more formative years. It's interesting, and we can talk more specifically about the Phillies that were on the list because they're actually there were 4 of them. It was a pretty big show. But Billy Wagner in his second to last year of eligibility, just missed. You need 75% of votes to get in. He got 73.8%. Like when the margin's 2%, you got to figure that next year he'll make his way in. But that's a tough one. And lower numbers, but Bobby Abreu, Chase Utley, and Jimmy Rollins were on there, and really only Utley got close to that 30% marker. They had more time, obviously, but when you see some of these guys that are getting in playing, having played with that crop from the Phillies, makes you wonder what stood in Chase's way at least.
Yeah, I feel you there. I agree. I think everybody who got in was very well deserved. Alec, how did you kind of feel about the results of and where everything landed?
Really happy that the Colorado Rockies have their first Hall of Famer. Yeah, Larry Walker made it, but he wasn't gonna go in as a Rocky. He never was. Um, but seeing Helton get that franchise their first Hall of Fame player, I think means a lot to the franchise to say, "Hey, this was our guy. Like he was our best player of all time," and he is. Like he played a great first base, a great hitter. I still remember that one play where like he's a foot off first base but still recorded the out. That was hilarious because of course replay was still not a thing. But it's just really great. Billy Wagner missing by 5 votes was kind of upsetting. I think has the highest strikeout rate in MLB history for 11 for anyone over 900 innings. I think maybe Jacob DeGrom might be slightly higher. Maybe.
That's pretty good company.
Mm-hmm.
But he's right there. I know the knock is his postseason record, but postseason is supposed to be something that helps somebody get in. It's just added to it because these are Hall of Fame careers. Like regular season is the majority of that. So upsetting that Wagner didn't get in. Utley, I was disappointing on what happened in the last big chunk of vote that came out. Like what was revealed through all the people who record everything. Ryan Thibodeau does a great job of that on Twitter. I think it's like at Mr. Tibbs. Follow him if you want any trackers for the Hall of Fame. Really great at it. But Utley was like at 39.4% or something like that. And he dropped like 10.6% when like the all the batch was revealed. Like he went from like 39.4 all the way down to 28.8. That's a
Hmm.
large drop.
Very large drop.
And I was really hopeful that he would get close to 40 because that would have been a
Hmm.
great sign that he was going to get in the next couple of years. But it might be a harder battle for Utley.
Yeah, I would agree. I was disappointed to see the way things worked out for Chase, but I'm also still very optimistic, especially
Oh yeah.
because I think it was like roughly it was 50% of the ballot that had been revealed heading into the event in the evening, and like you said, Utley was tracking near that 40% mark. So you really just got to win over a, a small portion of that 50, and then you got to start winning over some of the other guys. And the thing with Chase is, and the Hall of Fame system as a whole, I don't believe that Chase Utley's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I
Oh
think he's
no,
a Hall of
he
Fame
was
player,
never going to be a first ballot.
right? And so that's how people vote, right? That's how the system is structured. So you might have a chunk of people out there who said, yeah, Chase Utley's a Hall of Famer, but not yet. So as we get to a third ballot, a fourth ballot, that's where I think Utley might really see like a rise in his votes, and I do think he'll get in. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop up on the screen just uh, these were the results for the Hall of Fame this year. All the guys on the ballot and those who got votes, and you can see Chase with the 28.8%. I was very disappointed to see that Jimmy Rollins didn't really grow this year.
Hmm.
He's sitting at the 14.8 mark, and Jimmy was roughly around that same mark last year. He gained a couple of votes. Again, I don't think Jimmy Rollins is a um, that early of a ballot guy. He's probably a seventh, if he's gonna get in, it's gonna be seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th year on the ballot kind of thing. So I understand it from that perspective, but I was hoping to see him grow his numbers a little bit. And while I do think Chase was a better player, you could kind of argue Rollins had a better career.
Hmm.
It's the longevity versus the short burst, the 7 year stretch, the prime of their career. So it really depends on how you view that stuff. But what do you guys think? Do you think both? Well, I'll phrase it this way: do you think Ali's a Hall of Famer? Do you think Rollins is a Hall of Famer? And do you think they'll both get in? Do you think one of them will, one won't? I'll go with Tommy there. What do you kind of think there in terms of who does get in, who doesn't?
I think they both get in. Eventually, I think you're right about letting this cool off another 5 or 6 years before we see Rollins specifically. I'd be concerned for him because he's still under that 15% margin in his second year. As you mentioned, like you would like to see some sort of a bump. I think it's a great sign that Chase got close to that 30 in his first year in the ballot. So I think we see Chase within the next 3 or 4 years, and Jimmy's probably the next 6 or 7. But I'm with you. Like what Jimmy, you got to think about what Jimmy was the leadoff hitter for the Phillies, and he kind of did it all. It's just a different position when you look at a Chase Utley. There's arguments to be made that he was one of the 5 best second basemen of all time. That kind of argument is just going to make you more likely to put somebody in the Hall of Fame versus Jimmy Rollins, who, do not get me wrong, was an incredible player, but at shortstop, he's just got some stiffer competition historically.
Yeah, I agree with that. Alec, what do you kind of feel in that situation with Rollins and Utley?
I think Utley will. I think 28.8% is even still a good first year amount, especially seeing some of the guys that have been getting in recently have really, started low and built their cases. Rollins is a question mark to me. I think it's a toss up. I think it's going to have to be paired with Utley, kind of comparing them to be the most dynamic double play duo, or at least one of them in Major League history, and pairing those two together, and really some support from the Phillies themselves, and trying to, saying like, hey, both these are our guys on the ballot. Both of these guys are Hall of Famers in our book. maybe that pairs with number retirement ceremonies. Because honestly, everyone knows 26 isn't going to be worn again. Like, it's not. 11, I don't think should be worn again either. He's the all-time hits leader for the franchise. It just makes sense. Howard is a little bit more like, you could, no one would mind, but at the same point, it's like, career-wise, he was great as a Philly. Helped us
I
win
think
a
I would
World
mind if
Series.
somebody wore 6.
Well, we've already seen 35 worn by what, Oscar Mercado? No, who was it?
Yeah, it was Oscar Mercado for, I believe, one
Yeah,
at bat. Yeah.
for one at
I
bat,
was
and then
mad
I
about
think
that too.
someone else
The
part time.
gall.
I was too, but like, if we're gonna do that, well, I mean, Halliday's was worn by AJ Burnett, and that was fun, and others, but
I think I think at the end of the day with these two guys, it's both or neither. The way they're so, history is going to look back and it's just the two of them in the center of that diamond, and on really like what were the glory days of the last 20 years. Like that was the team. Things are looking pretty good right now, even with the in Philly in general, even with that disgusting Eagles wild card exit. But like what they're building right now is what we had from 2006 to 2012, and it's tough. The Howard thing's tough because you saw Jimmy and Chase go their separate ways as the decline was happening. The way Howard's time ended in Philadelphia, I think, has to be on voters' minds. If that, moving forward, like, it was not graceful. If I remember correctly, he was just straight up DFA'd, floated over to the Braves for a little bit, and then that was it. After he tore his Achilles, that was kind of Ryan Howard's exit left.
yeah, and Howard was on the ballot and was off in a year. I don't think anybody gave him a vote.
If you want to argue though, like, because everybody, and I'm in support of this, but people are arguing for Chase about how he didn't have the longevity in the career, but that short spurt that he did have was so dynamic. Look at Ryan Howard's numbers from 2006, even throw in his 2005's year. Look at that 05 to 11 stretch. The dude, you could definitely make a case, was one of the 3 best hitters in all of baseball. I mean, the numbers that he put up were ridiculous. He won Rookie of the Year and then MVP the following year, and then won the World Series the following year. After that, and he was the anchor of that lineup. As good as Jimmy was, as good as Chase was, Howard was the guy you feared, right? Like, the dude could put. I mean, the dude could put anything over the fence, and when he did it with like such great power. Like, we see some of these Schwarber blasts, and are sitting there saying, "Wow, I cannot believe he hit that 480 feet." I mean, Ryan Howard hit a ball third deck in right field at Citizens Bank Park, and he did it with ease. It never looked like he was like swinging. It's not like a Harper swing where it looks like Harper's throwing everything he has at it. Howard always looks just so smooth and crisp when he crushed the ball, and I just think, I personally, I don't think Ryan Howard was a Hall of Fame player, but I just think that he, especially for the Phillies, he's a Wall of Famer lock. I don't think anybody should wear 6. And I just think that he deserves that respect because he helped anchor arguably the greatest stretch of Phillies history.
No, absolutely. Ryan Howard was a representation of that era. Uh, and you could say and compare it to like how everybody's mentioning about Chase's peak right now. But you could honestly lump together Chase Utley from 2005 to 2014 and his numbers. That's the majority of his career. That's where he built up the WAR. That's where he built up all of hits, all of his All-Star appearances. His last was in 2014. But then you look at Ryan Howard, who, after the devastating injury at the end of the 2011 postseason, just was never the same player, not even close. And it was a downright terrible player the last, so 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, the last 5 years of his career just drug him down hard. Maybe he doesn't lose that much power if he doesn't tear the Achilles. Maybe he still stays on pace to be a 500 home run guy and get in. But that's more of a what if. It's like if Troy Tulowitzki stayed healthy, could have he been the best shortstop of all time? Because honestly, for a while, he looked like it until just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, until he didn't anymore. I guess while we're talking about Philly's first baseman, you guys want to chat Rhys?
Yeah, it's a perfect segue. Yeah. So I'm sure everybody knows by now, but Rhys Hoskins, his time in Philadelphia is over for now. You never know; there could be a reunion down the line. But re-signed a 2-year deal worth $34 million with the Milwaukee Brewers. However, he does have a player option after year one to where he can exercise that and become a free agent. Really, I guess depends on how good his season goes this year. But Alec, you are a known pro Rhys Hoskins guy. You absolutely love Rhys to death. So I'll let you start with this one. But what were just your overall thoughts on the news, and how are you feeling that your guy is no longer with the team?
First and foremost, I'm happy he didn't go to anywhere else in the NL East
Mm.
because I couldn't have taken that. The Brewers are such an innocuous franchise and have done nothing to hurt the Phillies, so it's fine. He got a good deal, 2 years, 34 million. I think that's as best as he was going to get, and way more than the Phillies would have offered, even if there was an option to bring him back and plans for him. But I think he's always going to be known as a guy who was just kind of the spirit of the team and a guy who brought the bat, brought power to the lineup, and was the first position player from the rebuild to like really stick.
Mm.
Um, we're gonna miss Rhys, and there, who knows? Maybe in 2 years, Kyle Schwarber's contract's over, and Rhys Hoskins is the Phillies DH. Who knows? But probably not. If anything, he'll be on the Wall of Fame. There's no doubt in my mind that he won't be. He was here long enough. He had the moments. So, I wish Rhys luck in Milwaukee. And there's just one thing I want to mention is his stats in Miller Park. I know it's American Family Field, but I hate that name. Uh, in 9 games in Miller Park, he slashed 342, 405 with a 1.194 OPS. Oh wait, no, that's just slugging. Excuse me. So he had 5 home runs in 9 games. It's the highest OPS of any ballpark he's played at least 4+ games. It's a known hitter's ballpark, and I hope he has a great season.
All right, Tom, I'll
Yeah.
go to you.
Yeah, I mean mid market Milwaukee. It's such a boring place for, not that I've ever been to Milwaukee, but it's such a boring place for him to have ended up. And I think it would have been interesting to see him. Maybe he's out of patience for something like this, but before the Nats signed Joey Gallo, that could have been an interesting landing spot for him. I wouldn't have minded seeing him sticking around. Now I just feel like I'm going to lose track of his career. I won't. I'll just have to try harder. But I think it's interesting too that with this deal, that second year, he has a player only opt out. So in a lot of ways, what he just guaranteed himself was 17 million in this first year. And if he sees an opportunity for a need at first base across the league, he can opt to free agency. But if he has a down year, which he's coming off a major injury, he very well might. And he just could stay put, take the 17 million. Why not? Who wouldn't? And ride out the end of that deal. But I think it's interesting that they gave him the flexibility of that second year player option. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that.
Well, I think another thing with that is Milwaukee's kind of in a weird spot, right? Like there's talks they might trade Corbin Burns, their ace. There's a sense in Milwaukee now that Kirk Counsell's gone that they might kind of just tear it apart and start to rebuild. The Hoskins signing for me is something that, well, if Milwaukee's starting to sell pieces at the trade deadline, Rhys is a prime guy that you could trade off to a team for a couple pieces or whatever it may be. And you could say, all right, well, here's a power swinging bat who could DH for you. He could play first base, and he can go to a contending team. And on the flip side, if he does get moved, he can control his future. If he doesn't want to be there the following season, he can opt out. So
Yeah.
a lot of flexibility for himself, and I think it's a great deal for him. another Scott Boras masterclass in that
Mm.
sense. But yeah, it's sad to see Rhys go because him and Nola have been around for a long time. Uh, and I got the chance to meet Rhys last summer at his charity event, and he was just such a great guy. Like, and I think you could see that watching the games and stuff like that on and off the field. He just seemed like a genuine guy, and
Mhm.
getting the opportunity to meet him and Jamie was a very cool experience. And I just think that it's hard to see your team lose just a good person, right?
Mm.
The on the field production, Rhys had his moments, right? He'd be hot and carry the lineup for a week, and then he'd go cold for 2 weeks, and it would drive people nuts, myself included. And so, um, but him getting called up at the end of 2017, the Rhys Lightning phase, finally having a player who felt like a big league caliber player, finally had a homegrown prospect who grew into an everyday starting player. That was Rhys Hoskins, and he was the face of the Phillies before Bryce Harper signed, and so he carried that mantle and he carried it well. And as just from human being to human being, I wish him all the best. Uh, Especially with the move and stuff like that. But career wise, I think Milwaukee could be a really good place for him. And at the end of the day, what do you got there, Alec?
That's a ticket from Rhys Hoskins' first home run.
That's awesome.
Look at that.
At San Diego.
You
I
buy that
got
on
it.
the eBay?
No, when I got a deal when I was really wanted to add some Scott Kingery stuff to my collection.
Oh,
It was yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. Although with that I got like a really nice Aaron Nola rookie auto, which made up for it. But
there you go.
yeah, he's going to be missed. I he's going to be missed.
For sure. Do we? It's so a little pivot on like a little twist to this. Do we regret the signing of Nick Castellanos
No.
and or Kyle Schwarber?
No.
Yeah, I have to say no to, at least after Schwarber's just been such a statistical anomaly since he showed up in Philadelphia.
He's been a leader in the clubhouse too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Like
everyone seems to love him. He's just this big teddy bear. He hits the ball real far. Like he's been like is a true Philly at this point. Castellanos, you could talk me out of, but what he did last year, playoffs withstanding, was like a great step in the right direction. So
I still think they really just saw their opportunity and took it with both players. It was later in the off season. I think spring training had already started for both of them. Both the signings came about a week apart, and I thought they got good market deals on both of them.
mhm.
Um, I mean, of course, with Schwarber, the leadership, the home runs, you can't put a price on leadership. Like, you never know. Uh, but with Castellanos, one mediocre year, a second year that was an all-star season with a really bad stretch in July, and just ice cold in the NLCS.
Mm.
And it was sometimes that's how Castellanos is, and that's going to be the make or break point of this year for Castellanos. Like, I think there's a decision looming there. Once he's 1 year left on the books, you can see if you can flip him if he hasn't been ideal. Like if he has a decent season, you can eat some money. That's all I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I don't think they should regret it either. But just from the perspective that Rhys is gone because they ran out of room for him essentially. And the Harper injury plays a huge role in that. Bryce
Yeah,
doesn't ever get hurt like he does. Rhys is still a first baseman, albeit not a great defensive not great defensively by any means whatsoever. But there would be a spot for Rhys with all this moving around and stuff like that. So it's just something to kind of think about. I don't think they would take it back either. I mean, back to back, just dynamic seasons, a World Series appearance in 22. So certainly has been like we were kind of talking about earlier, one of the one of the best stretches in Phillies history. Like we look at the '07 to 11 period as probably the best. They had some good years in late 70s, early 80s, but I think they're right there again with this team and this core. So yeah, it sucks to see Rhys go, but I'm happy he went to a team that you don't necessarily have to root against. like a Mets or really any East team or even some of the West teams. Like if he had gone to like the Dodgers or like the Giants, I would not have been.
Oh yeah.
That would not have been ideal. But and I know he's a West Coast guy, so happy for him. But it was time.
And one last thing, I do think the unspoken part of this is there's a reason why Bryce Harper is going to continue playing first base. First off, we've saw the defensive miscues with Hoskins, and a lot of times I personally overlook them.
Yeah.
But going forward, I think Harper is your best option. Right fielders are pretty easy to come by, especially if you're just looking for somebody on a short deal.
Hmm.
But for a first baseman who's just learning the position, Harper looked very good last year. I think his only drawback was he's a little over aggressive sometimes, which drew him off first base when he needed to stay. That's about it. He just needed to learn the instincts a little bit more, but the athleticism played. And I think it's going to be a noticeable difference at first base going forward. And I'm going to say Gold Glove candidate Bryce Harper. Really early, but from what we saw, I think he will be in the conversation.
He was ranked third on the MLB Network's top 10 first basemen, and that's after a very small sample size. And he's right up there with Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman. So very cool to see. And Alec, you kind of alluded to what we're going to talk about next. Taking a shot on Bryce Harper to win a Gold Glove. And while those odds might not have been released yet, one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight was just kind of, putting your betting hat on.
I never
pulling
take
out
it
the
off.
DraftKings. Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, our
Pulling out the
better
DraftKings
extraordinaire.
with FanDuel. Tommy is the go-to betting guy for sure here at Philly Sports Network. So, but we want to talk about some Phillies futures, in very different, or in all categories really, from team to player and stuff like that. So, Tommy, I will hand this off to you. You are the betting guy at PSN. I feel like you hit more than anybody else in our group chats. So,
yeah,
take it away.
We'll see. All right, so I'm going to read some of the stuff here that I like, and I want to get your guys' reactions as I'm going through it. But whenever we do a gambling segment, can we get just like money bags like falling through the shot?
I will totally work on
I
that,
could
yes.
grab a fistful of change if that works.
Yeah, just roll it around. Okay, so starting with the World Series. So Phillies World Series odds at this point, 13-1. I feel like, yeah, put that dollar bill on 13-1. Like, why not? The only, I'll read you the list of teams that are ahead of them. They're all going to make sense. But right now, the odds-on favorite to win the World Series are the Braves, which is horrible, 6-1. Followed by the Dodgers after all they've done this offseason, 7-1. And then you have the Rangers and the Astros tied at 8-1. With the Phillies falling right behind there at that 13-1. It's fantastic value. And we've seen what kind of success the Phillies have been able to have against the Braves in the postseason over the last couple of years. What's the initial read here of those teams I just listed, including our Phils?
I feel like there could be some dark horse team that just shows out late in the season and really gets that momentum. It always happens. We see it year to year. I personally am not putting any money on the Phillies for a World Series appearance. Well, not appearance, because I do like the money better on them to get to the World Series than win it.
Well, that's plus 700.
Yes.
I disagree, Alec.
That's fair.
I think they're gonna go this year. You have a full year of a healthy Bryce Harper. Trey Turner is going to be back to the Trey Turner we expected when we signed. Schwarber's going to hit another 40. Stott and Bohm and Marsh are going to take another step forward. Johan Rojas is going to look good. So, and as Tommy was just looking for, we got a little cha-ching going on.
I like that.
I would take the Phillies to win the World Series at 13-1. I think you throw $10 on it.
$10 to win 130.
Exactly. I think that's a very valid bet. So if you're gonna throw some money on that, tweet us, at Philly Sports Network on Twitter, and let us know.
Yeah, on the 31st when I get paid, I'm putting some money on it. It might be a little quiet till then. So plus 700 for the NL pennant I read to you guys. To win the NL East, they're slightly better than 3-1 odds.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? Knowing that the Braves are going to be there and the Mets can't be worse than what happened to them last year.
A fun little side bet here. I do have Kodai Senga down as a dark horse for Cy Young.
Not a bad bet.
What are the odds on that?
I think like plus 1,300 or something.
Ooh.
That's pretty honest. That's honestly a great bet, and not to root for a Met, but yeah. Honestly, yeah. So they have to win the division at some point, right?
Do
And
they?
I mean, not technically, but I think we talked about this last week. How the Phillies have just started slow the last 2 seasons, and I think that they're going to make the adjustments necessary in order to not have a huge deficit early in the year, keeping them in contention. Because, like, I mean, this past year they weren't really close, but like in 2021 when the Braves won the World Series, the Phillies could have won the division. Like they only missed out by a couple of games, so like they haven't necessarily had to and then 2 years ago the Mets were right on the Braves' heels. So I think the Braves are kind of playing with fire in a sense, and I just don't think they could. I don't think they can keep it up. The Phillies have to win the division again at some point. So color me optimistic, but I think that's solid value, and I think the Phillies have a shot.
Yeah. Well, I would need to get odds on this, so this is some homework for me. But I'm wondering what the odds are for 3 teams from the NL East to make the playoffs. Because I think that could be an interesting one.
I would pass on that because I don't think the Mets or Marlins make it this year.
Okay.
But
Not the Nationals here.
Yeah, you're not even going to bring it. The Nats are 200-1 to win the World Series. That's $10 to win 2,000.
Well, it's not happening. So
it is. Well,
take my money.
The Diamondbacks were what, like the 4th longest odds last year to win the World Series, and they made it. So if you had thrown a bet on them to win the pennant, it would have been a really nice payout. You never know. I know the Nationals won't, but I'm just saying you never know. Hey.
Well, all right. And for anyone watching, tweet at us after this if you think we've missed any bets here. If you see any value anywhere where I haven't quite surmised, I always am open to suggestions because.
Oh, Tommy, I have some as well. Then so
we can talk offline. The last like straight bet I had before maybe we talk about some player props and futures is over under wins for the Phillies is set at 90.5.
Oh.
So
yeah, I'm seeing even money on that on DraftKings.
Yep. The last time the Eagles, the last time the Phillies won 91 games in a season, 2011. It's been over a decade. They got 90 last year. This is the kind of thing that how many years in a row have we seen it? Schwarber's going to come out hitting 130, and then all of a sudden the Phillies are 500 through the All-Star break. Do we trust do we think 91 wins is even feasible?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. They can't have a slow start for a 3rd season in a row. And remember, last year there was a lot of injuries early on that were being dealt with. They can't again. They can't.
Yeah, you're right. The Rhys thing too at the beginning of last year. Obviously, they had to rejigger some stuff, and then Harper's out. So that's a good point. Hopefully they're healthy. But like I said, 91 wins hasn't been done. 13 years? Is that the math on that? Not a math guy, but
yeah, since 2011. Yeah, at the conclusion of the season, it'd be 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. At even money, I don't love it. Maybe you pair that little parlay with Schwarber to lead the league in home runs. That is 8 plus 850. I don't think it's that crazy.
I don't hate it. I mean, who realistically would challenge him? Like Pete Alonso. Ohtani's not going to be back early enough to challenge him.
Matt Olson or Judge, according to the odds makers.
I don't think Olson's going to have the same season, and Judge is an injury risk.
Healthy Mike Trout could challenge him as well. So
I think we just talked ourselves into Schwarber to lead the league in homers.
Schwarber might lead.
Okay, but what about parlaying the Phillies over 100 wins with
Ooh.
100
Schwarber?
wins.
All right, no. I was looking at plus 100. Uh, what about over that 90.5 wins and parlaying that with Schwarber over 39.5 home runs? That's
That
at minus 110. That's his line.
so what does that kick out plus like 3-1 odds ish? If I had to do some quick math, I think I like that. I like that a lot. 39.5 feels low.
And then, well, wait till you hear Harper's.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Harper is sitting at 32.5.
I'd hit the
Uh-huh.
over on that as well. He hit what, like 25 last year, and he didn't hit a home run for a month and a half, and he
Yeah,
missed like 2 months of the season.
I think he's easy a 35 home run
What's
year
Alec
for.
Bohm's? I don't know if you have that in front of you,
I don't think I.
because last year Bohm's was 14 and a half, and I remember thinking how extremely low that was. And I believe he finished with 20, 19 or 20. So
Mm.
Alec Bohm's an interesting one, especially because he started off the season, he hit the home run on opening day, and everybody's like, wow, like Alec Bohm's power surge, and that's kind of the one thing about Bohm is discussed every year. Will he finally hit for power, being a 6'6" corner infielder? So, I'd be very interested to see what Bohm's numbers look like.
Yeah, that's I see. This is why I lose money though. I can talk myself into every single one of these overs,
Trey
and
Turner over
that's
24.5.
Ooh, I might take the under there.
That's close. I'll give you another Trey Turner though to lead the league in hits. 18-1.
I like it.
That's hard. Obviously, that's hard.
I think there's a
Obviously,
good chance, but it is. That's one of those ones where it's all health based.
I
So,
know.
and I mean with like Schwarber, he's DH. So unless there's like an oblique strain, it's most likely he's going to stay healthy.
He should be fine. Yeah.
Listen, I was at the game where Aaron Judge strained his oblique on a swing.
Ooh.
Bad luck, Alec. Is that what we're hearing?
It was 2019, and
Yeah,
I'm
seriously.
no
Dun,
Yankees
dun,
fan.
dun.
I'm
Fair
no
enough.
Yankees fan. All right, but how about this one, Tommy? I got how about the Phillies to have the longest win streak in baseball at
Oh,
plus 1500. That's 15-1.
wow. That's interesting to be giving odds out on.
Think about it though. They have
They're
a
so
decent
streaky.
starting rotation, and maybe June sometime just decide to.
Yeah. I like that. My fear is it's going to be like the Mariners, but I
Oh,
like
it
that a
could be
lot. Plus
someone really
1500.
random. But
I
they
Okay.
know.
have
Do you know
a
the top three
strong starting.
teams?
I'd have to look back on it, but they're
Well,
definitely. I think
rhetorical
the
question. I
Dodgers
have it.
are up there. Oh,
But throw out which team you think had had the longest win streak.
I think it's like I'm sure either Dodgers or Braves.
Orioles.
The Tampa Bay Rays
Oh,
had
you're talking
13
from
straight
last year.
from last year. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought you were talking
13
about the
straight.
other odds teams in front of the Phillies.
Oh, gotcha. Second place, the Cincinnati Reds with 12, and then the Giants won 10. So like
So that's what I'm talking about. The
Reds won
Reds.
12.
the Reds won 12 in a row at one point. Yeah,
That seems so odd, especially
right.
with how
So
they finished.
that's a tough code to crack. What? And I wonder. I'd have to look, I guess, at what the longest Phillies win streak has been.
Oh, not close to that. Maybe like
Yeah,
8 or 9.
8 or
I think
9. Yeah, that's what I
9.
was thinking.
I
2000.
think
It would have
9.
been 2008.
No.
I
But
just
I
meant
think they
last
won.
year.
Yeah, I think they won
Oh, last
9,
year.
like either last year or the year before. I think
Okay.
it was the year before they won 9 in a row.
I don't remember.
I remember they got close to 10, like really
Yeah.
agonizingly close.
I don't remember last year them celebrating a string of wins.
There was on the road. They had
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
14 straight road wins, I think, at one point,
Oh, okay.
but not consistently like in a row.
Yeah, not lighting the world on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know. But hey, if you take any of these props, let us know.
Yeah.
You know, tag any of us, tag Philly Sports Network on Twitter. Let us know. Show us your bet slips, and maybe if we get some cashes this year, you'll hear the sound a little bit more.
Ooh. Ooh.
I do have 2 more on my list if you
Go
wanna-
for it. Yeah. What do we got?
So on the low end,
Okay.
minus 110, so it's 50-50, and that's the juice to the sports book. So Aaron Nola over 195.5 strikeouts.
That feels very good.
because
It's
he's
probably
happy
an injury. It's just an
season.
injury, right?
Yeah, it's injury risk.
Yeah.
That's all you're really pairing that up towards.
I would
Yeah.
take the under.
That's fair, but okay. Another Phillies starter. Another Phillies starter. Cy Young Award plus 800 for Zach Wheeler.
I like that.
I really like that. It's gonna be
Because
so tough this year.
the NL is a crapshoot when it comes to Cy Young this year.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of names, but I don't think there's anyone that's really standing out just
Yeah.
yet.
Agreed. Atlanta's got a couple of nice young arms, but who knows?
And like, who knows with Yamamoto?
Yeah.
That's why I picked Senga. He was again at like plus 1300, and his second half last year, excellent.
The Ghost
Yeah.
Fork is amazing.
I want to commend us here as we get close to the end. We managed to do another 40 minutes, and the Phillies still haven't signed anyone.
Hey. Kobe Allard is a guy.
Okay.
He is indeed a person.
Who we didn't even bring up.
Because it's not worth it. He has like a 6 career ERA.
We should have done an emergency pod the other night
Yeah.
with Kobe Allard.
Oh my god.
The first ever emergency pod for Alley Talk, and it's
But the thing is, there hasn't even been like many like minors signings.
I
Like, usually by now there's at least like, with an invite to spring training.
Yeah.
Nobody.
I got my list right here. Hader with the 5 years, 95 to Houston.
Yeah.
That and Hoskins. Those were the two big deals of the week, really.
Stevenson to the Angels.
Yeah.
The weirdest one of the week for me was Matt Moore going back to the Angels after they cut him for like $500,000 at the end of the season.
I love that.
The Phillies did that with Odubel Herrera, 2020.
No, but this was part of that like mass exodus of the Angels. Remember?
When they cut everybody,
7 guys on waivers,
God.
and like 6 of them were claimed to other teams. It was really weird.
I don't think anyone's accusing the Los Angeles Angels of being a well-run franchise.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true.
I like Mancini to the Marlins. It's a minor league.
Oh,
deal.
Did that happen?
I missed that one.
Yeah, well, it's a minor league deal, which is like feels like such a fall from grace for a guy that was like kind of a big free agent last year, or 2 years ago, whatever that was. But that could be interesting on like a young Marlins team to see him. James Paxton.
Yeah, which honestly
the Dodgers
could mean that Kershaw's not coming back.
Yeah.
Kershaw is not coming back.
Do you think Kershaw's going to the Rangers then?
I don't know. He'll get $25 million a year wherever he goes.
Is he cheaper than Montgomery? And like, I would rather have Montgomery.
Oh yeah,
than Kershaw.
He should 100% be cheaper.
Well, you would think,
38.
right? But
he's never been able to pitch in the playoffs.
Well, yeah. But as a regular season guy, going at least like 5-6 innings,
he's been
really
up
good.
The last couple of years.
He should go to Milwaukee. I heard it's quiet there. And then Joey Gallo got here to the Nationals. It's an interesting one.
To have a multi-home run game against the Phillies this year.
He will.
There's almost no doubt in my mind that's happening.
I
agree.
This Nationals team, I think, is going to be pretty exciting in a couple years. They got a couple nice young pieces.
That Juan Soto deal, it was a good trade.
Yeah, it was.
It was a good trade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm curious to see somebody like Gallo. I don't know a lot about Joey Gallo. Like, it's just like he hits home runs, but like, what's he like?
He's Kyle Schwarber, but not sexy.
But not sexy.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt. That is a great t-shirt idea.
There's your breakout. There's your breakout clip.
Not only is that, but it's going to bring us a lot of this.
Oh.
It's true, though.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Where is the lie?
Plays elite defense.
Not Kyle Schwarber. Sorry.
Not Kyle Schwarber. No, Joey Gallo. Yeah, so, okay.
There's no worse turnoff than Kyle Schwarber with a glove on.
Yeah,
that might go on the back of the t-shirt, but
isn't that a meme? It's like what are you thinking about right now or whatever, and then you just like whisper like Joey Gallo. Fucking,
Kyle
I don't know.
Schwarber playing left field. Yeah.
Imagine
Kyle
Schwarber's
Schwarber's
bat
defense.
with Joey Gallo's glove.
That'd be a Hall of Fame player right there.
At least two halves of one.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was a brilliant way to kind of end off the second episode here of Alley Talk. So, like I said last week on the introduction, you know, there's going to be a different combination every week of our wonderful Phillies writers here at Philly Sports Network carrying the ship with this podcast, just talking all things Phillies. We are getting dangerously close to pitchers and catchers reporting 19 days.
Valentine's Day, everybody.
Valentine's Day. What better way to showcase a love of baseball and a love of Valentine's Day together? Baseball is almost back. 19 days, so we'll have a couple more episodes until then. Hopefully the Phillies sign some people in the meantime. Make a trade, do anything. But guys, any parting words to the faithful here at Philly Sports Network?
I'm telling you, the team needs Hector.
Go spend money on gambling. I probably can't say that, actually. Disclaimer.
Cut that.
If you're 21 or over,
Yeah,
and if you want to.
Okay. Well, if you use any of our Philly Sports Network links to sign up for any of our various sites, feel free, 21 or older in the United States. So thank you all for listening to episode 2 of Alley Talk. We'll be back next week for episode 3. And drop a like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And thanks everybody for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Bada bing, bada boom.
I hope you got that again.
Yeah, I hope it did too. So I said some shit.
It still says we're live.
Yeah, I know. I hit end.
I don't trust.
Hot mic.
Yeah.
These mother.
Yeah. And that's a deep drive. Oh.